Welcome to the Real Estate Investor Meetup. I'm your host, Matt Morrow. This is a place where knowledge is shared, friends collaborate, as we help each other to succeed in both our real estate and personal goals. We are a group of like-minded individuals from across the country who are here to help and support each other. Investors, realtors, entrepreneurs, and many others contribute to providing diverse and practical content for our events. Thanks for joining. We hope you enjoy the show and encourage you to bring others who may find value as we invest in our collective future. Hey everybody, got an awesome show today. Rick Stivers from Western Pennsylvania comes on, talks about his experience with sheriffs and tax sales. A lot of really cool information, a unique side to investing, but it does require a bunch of education and experience that most people don't have. So again, Rick Stivers, Western PA, sheriff sales.
All you need to do is bid, $200 or $300 over what the bank and what the mortgage is, and you'll win the auction. That is, unless you have competition from some other investor.
All right, I'll go for it, Rick.
All right. So quick introduction to myself. I've been a real estate investor for about 10 years. I'll say 8 of that was kind of accidental with a house that we couldn't sell due to a prison closing right around it and every other house going on the market at the same time. And so did everything wrong with that over 10 years. But the last 5, we had a tenant that was very good, paid on time. And so about 2 years ago, I started to get a little bit more serious about it. I was running an office for a company that we sold up in State College. And, I found out, probably about a year and a half ago that they were closing the office. And so figured, good enough time, take the severance, take everything and go. And the retention bonus to stay, be the last person to shut out the lights and try to get serious and get enough cash flow. And then just realize that it's a lot harder than what I thought. And, 3 or 4 houses in, it's just not enough. And so I'm back at a W-2. I run IT for a phone company. We manufacture phones called Sangoma. I don't know if anybody's heard of it, but I think we're like 5th behind Cisco and a couple other ones. And so, that's obviously the rain going off. But yeah, so I've got right now 4 properties, 3 of them that have come through either a foreclosure, auction, sheriff's sale, and from a VA foreclosure. And so that's pretty much the area that I've focused on. It was interesting to me. I started going to sheriff sales, primarily looking at repo lists, looking at, all the tax lists kind of out by where Brian is. That's kind of where I was focused for probably about a year. And then started to look around where I live here and sort of what they call that 22 quarter going from State College all the way to Pittsburgh. And so, that's kind of what I'm going to focus on today is really what I've learned over the last year and a half. And, the ton of mistakes that I've made, because that's really the reality is, there was definitely mistakes that were made, but in the end, it's a good way to really, if you do your research and, even if you make mistakes and you do the research and the numbers work, then you can still come out ahead. And so I guess I'll just kind of go into, I think I need to be given permission to share.
Let me figure that out really quick. Sorry.
You should just be able to elevate me as a presenter.
All right.
Yeah, it's got participant screen sharing is disabled, so you just have to enable it. I forget where it is, but I think if you click on the participants, you see me. You can actually go and make me a presenter. There you go.
I made you a co-host.
Okay.
Thanks, Richard.
All right, so let me get my desktop. Sorry, you're going to see the tunnel.
You have all your tabs closed before we.
Yeah, let me see. Let's see. Let's go from. All right, hold on a second. I guess I got to go and give permission for Zoom. Yeah, give me a second. Let me get into my perms.
While he's doing that, thanks everybody for coming in. I know it's been kind of a interesting few months here. We started with 4 of us just talking, and now we have, there's 9 of us on the call, 17 on the invite list. So it's getting pretty good. Last time it was actually just Rick that called in, and he and I talked for a little while, and I'm glad that Brian was able to connect us. So if you have anybody else who might find value from the call or be able to present something that could be of value to the group, please have them contact me. I'd like to get everybody in contact. You never know who you could work with here. So. Did you get it figured out? Well, it looks like Rick accidentally got himself out of the meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Some of you probably had experience with sheriffs and law before. We could hear about that.
Here he is. He's back in. You're back with us, Rick?
Yeah, it was telling me I had to bail. All right, you'll have to do it again. You'll have to elevate me again. If that doesn't work, I'll just upload the file.
Hey, Richard. I gave Richard my my admin rights, and I can't update you. Richard,
Yeah.
can you make Rick a admin again?
Yeah, sure.
It's not letting me do it for some reason. Thanks.
Done.
All right, so now you should see my screen.
There we go. Awesome.
All right. All right, so let me see. Why is it? All right, so I named this good, bad, and ugly, like everything. So one of the things that is obviously key when you're looking at things like tax sales and sheriff sales is really to do your research. Decide on the few counties you're going to target. I looked at I think it was 4 counties, and I went and visited every single one of those courthouses. And inside those courthouses, I visited every office and kind of got to know the people that work there. Obviously the sheriff's office, because that's where the list is. And so, they'll have the list. A lot of times, they'll print a copy off for you. Sometimes they'll charge you $1 or $2, but that is where the definitive list. A lot of the counties have rules around how they post. Most of them are required by law to post in a newspaper. And so you can find things like, counties that I target in different newspapers and find the list that way. And so, but I can't stress enough the importance of getting to know those people in those offices. You'd be surprised, especially in the pro-notary where, they'll be willing to give up, this is the 10th time someone's come in here and asked about that house, so then you kind of understand, there's definitely some competition there. Other investors that are kind of looking at the same properties. And then, obviously the tax office, you can do sort of your own mini title search, and go through and, within those, systems, they usually have computers that you can, get on and actually, look up the court cases, because every single foreclosure is listed. Once you get that number, you can then go in and look and see really what is owed on that house and what type of liens, any second mortgages, because a lot of times they're only going to list, that first one. And so, again, like I said, doing your research is definitely key. And then learn.
Hey, Rick,
Yes.
Rick, are you doing your own lien searches, or are you paying like a title search company?
So I paid a real estate agent to, that used to do title searches to show me how to do it on my own. But the reality is I do that as a first step. So I go through and do my own sort of title search just based on what's in the court office. The problem is that some of these are going through a state. And so there may be liens that get added on, you may, by the time this house gets to auction, could be 6 months to a year as well. And so, I'll show you a little bit later kind of what I do and how I go through.
Okay.
Because you really have to stay on top of your list. It's a living, breathing list. It's, you may go to an auction and, the house that you're targeting all of a sudden, delays, which means that they either got involved with an investor who was able to, talk to the attorney for the bank and, they sent them some money or something just to kind of hold it off. And a lot of times, even if they engage with an attorney through either, say they're going to declare bankruptcy, well, then they will put a sort of a delay on the auction. They will actually postpone it to the next one. And so, this happens regularly. You may show up to an auction and find out that all 4 houses that you're targeting, none of them go up that day. So, I've been there where I drive all the way to Beaver and, go to the courthouse, and I had 4 houses that, I was targeting, and all 4, were delayed or postponed. 3 of them were postponed. One of them was just, someone either paid the mortgage or paid the taxes and it's off the list. And so so you definitely have to have patience. You have to, take it as, man, I didn't just waste 2 hours driving to Beaver. I'll go and, drive a couple neighborhoods, do some driving for dollars just to make the trip worthwhile. But yeah, and so one of the things, like I said, is to make sure you learn the rules of the auction, because every county is different. They have different rules as far as the deposit that you have to put down. Some of them require 10%, some of them require nothing other than a check. Some of them will require cash. Some of them will require guaranteed checks. It's all different. So you have to kind of know. And again, the sheriff's office, usually the staff that work there are, they're very nice. I've yet to run into anybody who's been, unhelpful. They'll usually tell you, make sure you have cash, or, the one here, it's just a check out of your business that they'll cash. And so I paid both of them through a check from the business. But they're all different. So you got to definitely know their websites are all different, and some are way better than others. Some won't list anything, others you can find the list right off of their site. And so, what I typically do, and I'll show you in a little bit, you generate your list. And so I use Google Sheets, just something I know, something I was coming up with just to do, quick calculations, because you'd have to know your numbers. You got to know what the judgment against them is and what that value is. And it constantly changes. It'll keep going up based on the length. And especially with COVID, some of these counties were canceling their tax sales, and it went 6 months. So that's essentially 6 mortgage payments that weren't made. And now that judgment is increased. So you have to make sure that you're, going back and constantly checking on that. Once you have your list and you have your criteria, for what you're targeting and what you think are, potentially profitable, buys, then you definitely start to target your drive-by list. So what I do is typically, it's almost like a funnel. If you think about, if anybody's been in sales and you have your, Salesforce or your other, CRM that has that funnel. And so you're really taking these leads I take it similar to like what a wholesaler would do and go through and funnel those down into, what I consider to be, profitable. I do single family, 3-bedroom, 2-bath. That's kind of what I target. And doing the lease option similar to Brian, that's where we met out in Arizona, at a training event out there. And so, once you have your list and you've kind of targeted the ones that make sense on paper, then I do an actual drive-by of the house. And yeah.
Do you have any experience in like the Northampton, Lehigh County areas? Or are you predominantly out in Susquehanna or Central PA?
No, I was focusing pretty much up in Beaver County, Westmoreland County, Butler County, and then the 2 counties around where I live in Blair and in Cambria. Those are the 3 or the 5 counties that I've been to sheriff sales at the courthouse so far. And I have not focused out east other than, my thought was to sort of generate my own list and be able to systematize this and put it into a database that I could then sell, and throwing in, because, you're also wanting to do your own comps too. And I'll show you on the list because, it's very important to go through and do your comps, but you also need to do your drive-bys. And if you can get inside the house, get inside the house. That's something, when Brian and I were out in Arizona, the guy leading the seminar was pretty much, said that, those who deal in sheriff sales become experts at breaking and entering, which, good or bad, it's, the reality is a lot of times the guys cutting the grass, they use the house for the if the bathroom's working, they will use it. And a lot of times what I found is they'll leave a key under the mat in the back door, or I've gone to houses before where the sliding back door is completely left open. And so it's, if you can get inside the house, definitely get inside the house. Talk to the neighbors as well. That's how I found a ton of information, knocking doors around the house, and they'll tell you, oh yeah, that guy, the house that I'm about to show you, he was a coal miner, and he ended up, his wife died a couple of years before him. His kids live out in Texas, in Oklahoma. He was suffering from black lung. And so the last 3 years, pretty rough on him. But talking to all the neighbors, after, and it's funny because one of the neighbors was who I was bidding against at the actual sheriff's sale. But they had no idea how the process worked. And so, they were, bidding $2 or $3 grand when he owed 22,000 on the house. And so the bank is not going to let you, they're just, so you have to kind of understand how the process works. And, again, like I said, drive by the houses. And what I've also learned, going through the training is make sure someone drives by the day of the auction as well. So if you narrow your list down to 3 or 4, pay somebody, or, my daughter's boyfriend, or, somebody to drive by and make sure the house is still there. Because I guess, it's happened before where a house burned down, or the, homeowner gets pissed because they know that it's going to the sheriff's sale that day. They light it up and they leave. And so now you've bought a house with no insurance, and, it's just, now you've bought a piece of property and said, and not a house. So yeah, I definitely, it's something that I did for the one that I bought. I did drive it that morning because it was close to the courthouse, just to make sure that, it was still there. But then, when I narrow it down to 3 or 4 places that I'm really interested in, that the numbers work, then I will actually order a title search. And for this house, it was, I ordered the title search, and I was, I found a $7,500 inheritance tax lien from Pennsylvania on it. So it made the numbers, but the numbers still worked. And so, it's definitely something, I'll see if I can blow this up a little bit bigger, but this is kind of the list that I use. this list was generated over about a 6-month period. And so let me see. Yeah.
When you ordered the title search, obviously there's companies that do that, but they can be pretty expensive out your way. What does an average title search, if you have somebody do it for you, cost?
Mine, the ones that I did, let me see if I can go back. Yeah, the one that I did, I think it was, shit, how do you go back? I think I negotiated a fee with them. I talked to, I think it was Pro Title, and I said, hey, listen, I'm going to be doing a bunch of these. What's the best you can do? And I think he quoted me like $50 a title search. And it's, I want to say it's normally about $125. But I ordered usually, 5 at a time, somewhere in that range, because if I'm also doing things off of MLS or looking at other, foreclosure sales and things like that. So I typically would order, 4 to 5 at a time. And as long as I'm doing that, then he gave them to me for like $50 a piece. But to me, finding that out that that I had a 70 there it is right there. This is what came up in the title search. The 70, now it's up to 7,500 because I still haven't paid it, and I'm trying to figure out how to pay it because it's a little complicated. I'm actually trying to get my attorney to go and negotiate. This was, I think, based at a 12%, but from what he's told me is that if it's non-family member, that you can negotiate like a 4% inheritance tax, but I don't know how, if it's going to work or not. So this is, my lawyer is still trying to go and negotiate to get this down, but I knew this going in. And so let me see if I can figure out how to go back on this. Shoot.
As he's doing that, guys in the eastern part of PA, title search out here will run you at least 150, 250 range. So if you get to the point where you find a property you want to run it, it can get pretty expensive.
Yeah.
One that you like and get in with a title company. There's a few local ones that we're close with, and they work with investors. It'll be well worth your money though if there's a solid chance of buying it.
Yeah. So I don't know. Does anybody know how to go back in Zoom?
Is this you should be able to just do it on the PowerPoint side because it shouldn't.
Is that PowerPoint? Can you hit like the letter P? Does that do it?
Yeah, because it's a Google. Let me see.
Oh,
Yeah, let me see.
The arrow key.
Oh, there it is right there. Jeez. All right. So yeah. So what I typically do is you can see I generate the list. It comes from a PDF. I convert it into Google Sheets. The one thing, and let me see if I can zoom in. Well, it's here. That judgment is the key column. Obviously figuring out the difference between what the judgment value is and what your comps are. And so I for this case I used Zillow, but in another sheet I actually went and rolled my own comps, kind of looked at the 10 sales around. But for this one, there were not enough sales in the area to really get a good comp. But for this house, it was saying 80. I guess my comps around 74, and the judgment against them was 25. It was about 25, but some of that was taxes. And so all you need to do is bid $200 or $300 over what the bank and what the mortgage is, and you'll win the auction. That is, unless you have competition from some other investor. But what I've found is that at the share of sales that I've been at, I've yet to see maybe twice where 2 investors were bidding against each other. It's the craziest thing. Like normally if the first person bids, you just hear it go quiet. And it's usually like, I've literally had an attorney from the bank turn around to the guy and say, you just need to go $100 over this. And I've been like, are you kidding me? So I was in Beaver, I was at the auction there, and there was a probably a $300,000 house that I drove by that was in, pretty good shape. Like, it needed landscaping, but the neighborhood, all of the comps there were, between 280 and 350. And that house went with one bidder for 146 grand. And so it's definitely, and I was like, wow, this is crazy. Like, so if you obviously have to have the cash. So that's why, where I was at the time, I had to go something lower. And so a lot of these, what I will actually mark whether I'm going to target them or not. And it may not be because it's profitable or not profitable. It may be just because I don't have the cash to buy it, is the reality. And so for this one, for 20 grand, then I looked in and I figured out, kind of what I thought the rehab would be. It'd be about 20 grand, and then the potential profit. And then I always put in a max bid and a low bid. What do I think I can bid? What do I need to bid to actually make this profitable or make it worth the while? And so this is one that I bought back in October. Went through, did the research. I know that it had obviously a tax lien against it, which I found in the title search. It was not listed yet when I did my research at the courthouse. And so, when you get into auction day, again, what I recommend doing is, again, print out your target list with max bids in bold. Do not go over your max bid, whether you're bidding against somebody or you just, you get it wrong. Sometimes your numbers just may not line up. Again, have someone or yourself drive by the properties that morning. Have your cash or guaranteed checks on hand if that's what the courthouse requires. Make sure you show up to the auction 30 minutes early, because there have been times where, the judge gets there 15 minutes earlier and they start. Sometimes they won't wait. They'll ask and say, are all the attorneys here? Yeah. Okay, well, let's go. I got a golf outing this afternoon. I want to get out of here, and so, and then one of the other things, do not bid on properties that are not on your list. You don't have the time sitting there in that courtroom to do the research on your phone. I've been there where it's like, wow, where'd this one come up? I didn't see this on the list. And then, it's just a distraction. Let it go. There'll be another one next week. That's, or next month or the month after, be another property. There's tons of them. So, and then if you win, go through, make sure you get to the sheriff's office that day. A lot of times you have to pay that day. Some of them you actually have to pay at the actual desk up front. Most of them, the one that I won, I had to go back up to the courthouse and it was like, they're cheering, yay, good job, you got that, which was kind of funny. But then again, verify the last payment due date, because the rules are all different, just to make sure, and put 5 reminders in your phone if you have to I got to go back to the courthouse on Wednesday next week and give them the rest of the money. And then the first thing I do, which I forgot to list on here, is I get insurance. I usually have the insurance, as soon as I win, the next thing I'm doing is calling my agent and getting insurance on the place. They're going to ask a few questions, what you think the fair market and after repair value. They know it's vacant, so they'll give you a different type of insurance. It's not that expensive. And then obviously change the locks. And so this is what this house looked like on Zillow. So this was 3 years before the gentleman passed away. And so looks like a really nice house. It's, it's decent, 3-bedroom, 2-bath. You can tell it's, dated furniture. And so this is what reality looks like. So this is 3 years of, the house sitting there essentially with a leaky basement, which then in turn caused mold throughout the house, which I knew, because I was able to get in the house and I went about 5 feet and said, oh geez, I'm turning around. It stinks so bad in here. In this living room, this guy was living in a hospital bed off to the left here. And there was a trail of, bodily fluids going from the bed into the bathroom. And so it cost about 10 grand, 5 to clean out all the stuff because every room was filled with, his clothes, his furniture. And it took, I think, 4 30-yard dumpsters to get rid of all of his stuff. You can see they had piled up here, all his oxygen masks. So, it definitely wasn't pretty. You can see from the one photo, the mold. But, the reality is if you look at the numbers, I paid $22.50 for it, $22,500. It was $22.50 on the day of the auction. And then I had to pay the rest of it the next week. I still have that outstanding tax lien, which is now up to about $7,500. Clean out was about 5 grand. The mold abatement was another 5 grand. In the process, the furnace was completely rusted out. So I had to put a new furnace in, and I'm in the middle of doing the renovation, which I'm estimating about 15 grand. I don't know if I'm going to spend that much based on, the training that Brian and I went out to. I may just throw drywall up and let them decide what they want to do with the kitchen if I lease option it. And so right now my total all in is about 60. Since I've bought this last year, with prices going up, like my all in is about 60K. The estimated post reno fair market's about 90K. So there was still, roughly 30K in equity for this. So, but like I said, it wasn't easy. I'm doing some of the work myself. I had to put a new roof on the addition in the back. The stairs, I fell through the stairs because they were rotted out. And so I got to put new stairs in there. It needs some work in the basement to clean up some of the water damage. But yeah, so any questions so
Rick?
far?
Yeah. Hey, Rick, can you hear me?
Yep.
Hey, quick question on your renovations. That renovation number, 15,000, was that just to get it to where it was livable, or was that like redoing the kitchen and the bathrooms, or any of that?
Yeah, right now they had to get rid of all the kitchen cabinets, but and it really what it needs right now is flooring. It needs flooring. It needs the kitchen redone. The one bathroom, well, I'd say both bathrooms need a little bit of work, but yeah, it's really just primarily flooring in the kitchen, so I've been doing most of it myself. And
right.
I
That's
have
how you save a lot of money.
Yeah, and then I have another friend of ours that their prison he was working at closed, and so he's helping out. So I've got him, and I've got my daughter's boyfriend doing some work for me too. And so there's 3 of us that, so all weekend, that's what I'll be doing is spending time up there, finishing the trim and some other things for that addition, and then building, redoing the steps. And then from there, but, I'm not sure, based on some of the things, the training that Brian and I went through where we do these lease options. I'm not sure if anybody's familiar with the Burley model, or, it really changed my perspective on doing reno. And so I will try to list this as a handyman special, and try to find someone who will lease option and someone who knows how to put carpet in and flooring, and see how it goes. From what I've learned so far, with that lease option model, you put a lot less into reno, and the reality is that whatever you do, 50% of it they're going to redo on these lease options. So if you pick a certain type of floor, you pick a certain type of paint, they're going to come in and change it, and you let them. And so that's the model that I'm following. And so I joined up for his mentoring program. And so this is the first one that I'm going to attempt to do that. And so I'll probably put a lot less in. I'll probably throw just drywall up, replace the outlets and, pretty much all of the house, and then deal with the water issue in the basement. put a sump pump in, and then I'm going to see, can I get away with, putting a lot less into it than that 15 to 20 grand that I expect? Because like I said, I've already done some things into it, and, it's slow because I'm, working full time. So yeah, I'm interested to see if it works, and I'll, I guess I'll kind of update as it goes on. I mean, the thing is now, like, I wouldn't have a problem living there right now. I got the one bathroom working. So for me, but I'm a guy, my wife would definitely not want to live there.
Rick, if you kept this as a buy and hold rental, what kind of rent could you get out of it?
This one, the rents in that area are probably anywhere from 750 to 800 a month.
All right. So then on lease to own, you might be going up to 950 or
Yeah.
1,000 or something.
Yeah. And yeah. I've already got the flyers out. That was what I was working on last weekend before our CEO went on a rampage. And so.
All right. And I'm listing a lease to own property this weekend myself. And unfortunately, I started a much more major rehab before I decided to do lease to own. So I over rehabbed it, but I'm still going to do lease to own on one in Beaver Falls. So it might be interesting, Matt. Rick signed up for the real high dollar mentoring program. I did not. So he'll become an expert much more than me, but we're both doing lease to own. It's a great model and really boosts your cash flow. And it'd be interesting to talk, between Rick and I, we could talk about that sometime and how you can find outside money and pay yourself up front and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. It's definitely, so far I've done all of these, pretty much with my own cash. I was fortunate enough in 2015 just to sell a company that, I helped start back in 2001. And so I cashed out most of my stock. I was heavily in the market, made some, pretty decent returns, but obviously it's, this to me was a faster way to generate wealth. And, I'm really interested in cash flow right now. That's kind of, my goal is within the next 2 years to be able to quit my W-2 and do this full time. And so, yeah, the program that we've, both, where Brian and I met, and, it's definitely, I've seen it work. The other property that I've had for 10 years that was negative cash flow, but, had a good equity stream, that property, using that model, I lease optioned it and I jacked the rent up about $200 a month. And now it actually cash flows. So, and, I over rehab that as well in between tenants. And, but, the funny thing is he went in and the first thing he did was repainted walls that I had painted 2 months earlier. So it's definitely true. He didn't like the color, and, he said, "Can I paint this?" And I said, "Yeah, it just got painted." He said, "I don't like the color." And he changed it literally to a different shade of gray. So, it's funny, it's just a reality. And so, but yeah, so this is one that, I just kind of wanted to show you, where I'm currently at, because I've kind of taken, obviously starting a new job back in November, I had to kind of take a break, dealing with a ransomware attack in the first, that happened a month before I started. And, dealing with, a company that goes out and acquires others. And so we just doubled the size in April. So it's been busy. And not only that, I kind of, was tapped out as far as the cash that I had without having to try to go get loans. This is the current sheriff sale that's going on in Cambria County today. Is actually happening today, but you can see the effects of COVID in here. This is unlike what I've seen in the past, where you see these continued canceled. You just don't see this. Typically, there's a lot more that are there to offer, and so continued means they pushed it back to another month. If you want to buy the mall in Johnstown, it's on there. So if you got 15 million, you could buy this mall, which, obviously it's continued. Someone, within that, legal team or something paid something to the bank to push it, delay it, or their lawyers. And then you can see the ones that are typically canceled means that they've either gone and paid the mortgage or worked out an agreement with the bank for a forbearance, or they've been working with a wholesaler who's doing either, or an investor doing a subject to. And so, they'll actually cancel it, and now it's off the list. But the interesting thing is 6 months later, you'll see some of them pop back on the list because either the deal fell through or, they paid up for that time and then they stop paying again. And then they start the process over again. So for this one, there's one house on here that I was looking at, and that's that 163 Vision Street, and that's in Nanny Glow near Evansburg. And so you can see right now, just from the eyeball test, it's on here. The mortgage they owe 129, and Zillow's got it listed at about 189. I would say it's more like 175. And then if you did the reno, because this house has been sitting there, I think it's been 3 years since they stopped paying, and I don't know if it's vacant or not. I have not driven by it. That's the other thing that's important, is a hell of a lot easier if the house is vacant. But then there's usually some, some drawbacks that, like I said, I look for ones where it's vacant, and if the homeowner is deceased and it's going through, probate, or it's past that and now it's a foreclosure, I typically, because I am dealing with one where I've had someone in there since I bought the place a year ago, and I still have not been able to get them out, even with the best lawyers in Pittsburgh. And so lessons learned again, like, if it's vacant, it's usually a lot easier to deal with. Not saying, if it is, the thing sometimes, if it's got a tenant, you can usually go and talk to them, and it's a good opportunity to see if you can get a subject to on it and get it off of here, and then get them out of there, by paying them walking money. And so, yeah, for this one, there was not really many on here. I think this was the only one that I saw that would have been profitable, but again, I would have needed 130 grand in cash to win that auction. What you'll see at these auctions, it's kind of funny, is you'll see people come to the auction and they'll bid $1,000 to $2,000 and they'll stop bidding and $100,000 house. And I think they've got this, they don't quite understand how it works, and they may think they're at the the actual tax sale, which is completely different. And Richard's got a much better presentation on that explains those, because there's your repository list, which is one that's gone through 3 years of tax sales and no one wants it. And these are ones that you go and look at the house, you see why it needs to be torn down typically. And then there's two other kinds, and I can't remember what they're called, but it's like the first year it goes through one where those are the ones you'll see a lot of investors bidding on. The second year is where you see, it's right before it goes to the repository list, where you can get some good deals. And I think that people think they're at that auction when they're really at a foreclosure or sheriff sale. And so, even, when I bought that place, and I went and I was bidding against a woman and another guy, and they stopped at about 9 grand. And they're looking at me like I'm crazy bidding 15 grand on it. But I knew that I had to at least go to 22.5 in order to clear what the bank was going to bid, what their attorney was going to bid. And so, there's also some things on here that are interesting too. So you also need to look and say, is this really worth that, or is there something seriously wrong with it? Because, sometimes it's just location. You'll see a lot of these on here at Johnstown, and it's just, that area is depressed right now. And so you got to be careful going and looking at these places and where they're at, what school district they're in. And the population in Johnstown, I think, has been dropping every year for the last 15 years. And so it may look like a good deal, but I typically shy away from anything down in Johnstown. Unless it's, like I said, it's a good deal. I've seen some in very good neighborhoods that just, the numbers would have worked, but to me, it's a little bit of a risk. I tried to look more towards Pittsburgh. That's kind of where I'm heading. And
Rick, so what you're saying is that a sheriff sale or foreclosure sale, they'll never sell the house for less than a judgment.
No.
So some of these houses are obviously underwater. They're not going to sell them even for what the judgment is. So that's the next step of the process. At some point, the bank has to throw their hands up and say, you know what, we'll never get out of this house what's owed on it. So that next step is maybe where do you participate in that next step
Yeah.
as well?
I did. And so what I found is what happens when it goes back to the bank, that's where you start to see it come up on auction.com. That's primarily where it will end up. They'll list it on auction.com and hope that, they can recruit some of it, which, that's the mistake I made on auction.com. I went and didn't really understand how auction.com worked. I didn't realize that they bid against you, and so, again, what I would do is, if there's one of these that I really said, man, it's a nice place, but they owed, they had 2 mortgages on it. They had a home equity and a regular, and now it's like, because some of these, you're not seeing the second mortgage on it, and so even though, like you said, so I go through and I run the numbers and I just totally disregard the ones that don't have enough equity in them. Like that's where I target. I target the ones with the high equity. The ones that, don't have the equity, I don't go after them. I don't even drive by them, to be honest with you, because the numbers just don't work. And so what I will do though is I'll start to recognize some of these and I'll see them pop up on auction.com, and I'm like, oh, I remember that one, and then you look on auction.com and it's like, they don't tell you the reserve. What I found is if you bid on auction.com, say you look at it and say, I looked at that place, they had the judgment and everything for 120. I think that place is only worth 80. And I think it needs, 15 to 20 grand worth of work. Now I'm going to drop it down to 60, and my max bid on auction.com will be 60. You bid 60, they will overbid you. But you sit there and wait, and it's like, oh, it's at 65. And you wait and wait and wait. And the auction will end at, say you lost. Well, then you'll get an email from auction.com saying, hey, you're the winner. And it's like, oh, really? Like, and I didn't know that's, but it is, it's kind of, I don't want to say it's a scam, but it's, I had a place out by you that, I said, I'm not bidding, like, I know what this place is worth, and I know what the mortgage was. I know what the bank's trying to get from it, but there's no way you're going to get it knowing, because I was able to get inside of it, and it was like, geez, it needs $30,000 to $40,000 worth of renovations just to make it livable. And so I went and, bid 65 on it, and I won, like,
Yeah, but that could really suck, because you might think you lost. Okay, then I'll take that money and go put it in another deal. And then they call you up or send you an email and say you won, and you've already spent your money on something else, right?
Yep. So yeah, don't bid unless you have that cash in reserve, and don't use it elsewhere, because it's typically quick. Like that one, it was a day and a half later, they finally said, hey, you're the winner of the auction. And then, I had one where the same thing happened, and they said, oh, you're the winner of the auction. And they came back like a day later and said, oh, sorry, the homeowner paid whatever, and they didn't tell us, and so you won, but you actually lost, so here's your deposit back. Because it's all illegal, and they, the one that I have in Coraopolis, that's what happened, and I really overbid probably by about 10 grand what I should have. But to be realistic about it, I had lost out on probably 12 properties in that area, making at MLS offers on them. And for whatever reason, that's a hot area for flippers right now. And they were bidding way over what I thought the places were worth. And I kept losing and kept losing. And I was like, damn it, I'm going to win this one. And now it's like, now I've, $9 grand in legal fees later, and they're still in the house because Allegheny County won't kick them out, and so it's, so yeah, you definitely, buyer beware, and but like I said, I wouldn't give up the last year. I mean, I've learned a ton, and, in this case, it'll work out, because even though that house, I've paid all those legal fees in the last year, it's gone up by, I think, 15% in value. So, it's still, and that one will definitely cash flow. It's a 3-2 in a working class neighborhood, so it's a perfect Burley house, and that's, you know. But this is, like I said, this is kind of what this month. So I didn't go to. I knew today I was doing this, and I didn't see anything on this list, so I didn't even bother to go. But I normally will go just to kind of, you know, pop my head in and, you know, get to see everybody. And I got to go back to the tax office for something else.
The whole process is so antiquated. You know, they haven't updated it in some counties in, like, you know, 100 years. They almost need like the town barker out there to announce the sale and, you know, stuff like that. And I know some counties are making an effort to modernize how they do this and go to online, but a lot of this is still very old fashioned and just they're set in their ways.
Well, but then, you know, what you know, we always say that's the opportunity. If you learn the system. And, you know, like I said, I went in there and I was bidding, you know, when I went and knocked on the neighbor's door and said, hey, you know, what's the story? And asked him, you know, you know, I asked him, I said, if I leave all my tools and all my stuff in the garage, is it going to get broken into and get stolen? You know, is this an area with, you know, a bunch of meth and heroin addicts running around breaking into houses? And his response was, no, they won't, you know, if it's, you know, they won't go through that house. So he says, it's a pretty quiet neighborhood. Plus we're, you know, we're always looking out. And he's like, yeah, you were bidding against my mom for that house. And he's like, we thought you were crazy bidding 22 grand for that house. We knew, you know, I helped that guy up after he fell down 5 times, you know, couldn't get up. He's like, you know, we knew how bad in shape and the mold in that house. And I said, well, you know, he's like, but we were only going to pay 10 grand for it. I said, you know, he may have been able to wait, you know, another year and pay 10 grand, but then it's, you know, probably 10 grand more in damages. And there's literally 3 places where the guys that were doing the clean out and the mold abatement fell through the floor because he moved the washer and dryer into the bedroom upstairs because he couldn't go down the steps anymore. And of course it leaked. And so, you know, there's a hole in the floor there. So the subfloor, you know, some of the 2x6s have to be, you know, supported a little bit better. So, I mean, there's definitely work, but again, you know, it's 30 grand worth of equity. And so, you know, these deals are out there and there's even better ones. Like, you know, if you have the cash and, you know, ahead of the time, if you know, like I said, I know these numbers are accurate. Like I said, I've been to, you know, probably 20 auctions, and the first few I didn't quite understand. But if you have the cash, there's definitely, you know, 5 or 6 really good deals in every single auction. And I would say probably 3 of them end up, you know, with going back to the bank because no one bids on them.
I heard prices have gone up so much you need a proof of funds letter to go into the lumber section at Home Depot now.
Oh my gosh, don't even tell me about that. I had to buy 6 sheets of OSB to put on that roof. And, you know, I'm doing another flip, and I bought a lot of the lumber back in October of last year, and it's triple that. So
yeah, I just paid $80 for 3/4 inch treated plywood to put under a shed that needed to be replaced. It's nuts.
Yeah. But yeah, so yeah, go ahead.
I have a quick point of information I think it'd be valuable for everybody here. On the current slide that you have up, the sale list, is that the county of the current sale you said today, but the Zillow estimate or the Zestimate on the right. You obviously know this. You've been in it quite a bit. I know Brian and Richard, they've done this quite a bit too. And you have access to a lot of local resources to get the value of what the after repair value would be, whether it be Zestimate or whatever sources you use. But there's nothing like the analysis of a real estate agent. And I can tell you, if you pull up that property on your computer right now and go to Zillow, your Zestimate will be $189,258. If you pull that same property up on your phone on Zillow, it will be wildly different. We found an issue with the algorithm that Zestimates use where it can be a problem if you're trying to run accurate comps for these properties you're buying. So you're doing the right thing by looking at the number, you know, it derives its after repair value, whatever you want to call it, backwards. from what it thinks is going to be a good number, but the data is really not there as to what they use. And I've seen firsthand Zillow generate out of thin air tax records, comps that it thinks it's using. The other thing you got to make sure is that this is using sold properties, because when you're selling this house, your buyers are going to use an appraiser, most likely, unless they're buying cash. And the only thing an appraiser is going to use is comps based on sold properties in the last 6 months, maybe. And I know this is something that we have a lot of issues with around here. People who take this word of God basically from Zillow as what the house is worth. And Tiernan can kind of back me up on this. Having access to the MLS and having people who have the data, we'll be more than happy to run comps. I do it all the time for people, especially investors when they're looking at places. Just make sure your numbers at the end are justified by good data. Now, Zillow is overall okay, but it can be wildly wrong sometimes. So just be careful.
Yeah. Don't. Yeah. I always run my own comps. I use Zillow as kind of a first, and then I look and I'm like, yeah, that house was worth, 189 if it was completely remodeled and hadn't sat there for 3 years. And, when you get in there, it's usually, I mean, I have an agent here that I work with that will run comps for me. And I do my initial, I typically wait till I have that list of 3 to 5, houses in that auction that I'm targeting. And then I will engage with my agent and say, if I was going to flip one of these, because I do, some of them don't make sense as a rental, and there's so much upside that it's like, man, I could get 50 grand in cash with doing a little bit of work. So I do an occasional flip. Like I said, I have one going on right now, and this estimate is completely way off. Like, it's saying it's worth like 238, and I guarantee the most I could get for that property is probably 190. Like, I don't see getting anything more than that, even if I, made it will be the nicest house in that neighborhood. But even at 190, it's still a huge upside. And that one came from a VA foreclosure. And so, yeah, you're exactly right. Don't don't bank on this estimate. Use it as one source of information.
You're better off to go into Zillow and click it over and look at sold properties instead of ones that are for sale, and just assume the Zillow estimates plus or minus 25%.
Yeah. I just, but this one, I know this one in this area that property is probably about 170 to 175. But that's if you fix it. Probably 30 grand in rehab, if you did it yourself, and 50 to 60 if you paid somebody. So it's like I said, the numbers, don't worry. Plus, I don't have 120,000 in cash sitting around right now. So there's, to me, it wasn't even worth the research. But this one's been on there a long time, and so, that's one I would actually look at, because we're looking to get closer to Pittsburgh. And so the next house I buy will probably come off the sheriff's sale. Like, I won't go and, do MLS. I would look for, one of these ones here that, listed for 200 in cash that you need. And, but it's worth 400, they're there. Like I said, I've seen it, I was looking going, man, I wish I had 150 grand like sitting in cash right now, because like, I know that house, he probably went in and cleaned it up a little bit and sold it for 300, like, and paid 150, whatever, 140 for it instantaneous. Like, and there was no one bidding against him other than the bank. And the lady from the bank, the lawyer from the bank, literally turned around and said, because they were going, they were starting at like 20,000, 25,000, 30,000, 40,000. And it was like, the lady just said, we can make this a lot quicker if you just go and essentially bid 145,000 or 146,500. And so he goes 146,500. And they went once, going twice, sold. And I was like, you got to be kidding me. Like, and I had done the research, so I knew that it was, around 145 was what I thought. And sure enough, it was right. I was like, damn it, I wish I had that money. Like, mean, this was a beautiful house. So yeah, there's definitely different strategies for this. If you're going to make it a rental or lease option, or, you're looking for flips, or even if you're just doing quick cash, some of these, if you have the cash, you could turn it around to an investor pretty quickly, if you, put 10 grand over what you paid for it. If there's, again, like if it's real, if the numbers are real, like, most people who know what they're doing are gonna, find you out, like my dad always says, the truth will find you out one way or the other. So, but yeah, there's different strategies that you can use
There
for
are not
the.
a lot of wholesalers working these auctions.
I haven't run into many of them. I know at the repo list, and I forget what it's called. There's two of them. Richard, you may be able to help me out. There's three different types of tax auctions. There's the repo list is what happens to the ones that don't get sold. And then it goes through two or three, like every year it's called something different. And the first one will wipe off certain liens. The second one completely wipes everything, I think. And that's the one where you're going to see, it's usually twice a year, once a year. And that's where your investors come in, and essentially they're paying the tax bill, and that auction. And, I've yet to go to one of those because, like I said, when I started this, I intended to go, and then COVID hit, and a lot of them just got canceled. And then by that time, I'd already been to sheriff sales and had property and placed my money, so I didn't have the cash to go back to the tax sales. But I know the ones here in Blair County, one of the key players here, he bought 5 of them at this place, and I drove by one. I was like, geez, man, they probably made 100 grand on this house just from the tax sale. And obviously had to go through and eject the person or get them out of there. But so those are a little different. And those I've heard are very competitive. Like you'll have 4 or 5 people bidding on the place. But I think if you took the same approach to a sheriff sale and knew your numbers and, go in there, like you said, and do your comps properly, and understand what, post rehab fair market's going to be and what your profit margin is, then you would know, like, what the max bid you can go to where you'd make money off of it. And so that's kind of the next thing that I want to start looking at is going to some of those tax sales. They just, they're once or twice a year. And if you miss it, you got to wait, but I've tried looking at the repo list, and I found it to be a complete waste of time. Especially out in Beaver. Like there was a ton of them that just, if you paid $2 grand, you could have a house. But the reality is that house needs to be torn down. So you're, $2 grand for a piece of property. And then the problem is trying to put, what are you going to do with that piece of property? I've gone to like New Brighton, to the township there, and said, hey, there's this property that's, got no house on it, and it's be perfect to put a modular on it. And the amount of hoops that they make you jump through, like, it just wasn't worth it. Like, but it was a flat piece of ground in a nice neighborhood in New Brighton, where, if you knew what you were doing and put a modular there, or, even a spec home, like, I mean, you could make decent money, or even some of them, I think they'll even allow you to put like a duplex there. But again, it's, it's something where I'm not a builder. And so, to me, it was more of a distraction. And so I kind of gave up, because I went into a place in New Brighton, and literally the floor in the kitchen was completely gone. It had caved in, and the outside looked beautiful. But then, you go and the sliding door was open. I looked, I was like, ooh, not paying $2 grand for this house. Like, so,
Hey, Brian, I think one of the reasons that you don't see many wholesalers at auctions and sheriff sales like this is because that business model is a lot different than what a typical investor would operate in. They use their leverage of a contract to sell it out. And most of these places, they have a requirement. And I know at least in Northampton and Lehigh County, you need cash or certified funds to get in, and you have 24 hours to provide it
past the initial price, and if not, it goes back up. And unless like Chad and Brian, if you're still on the call here for listening, can you provide any insight, like how would a wholesaler or a wholesale group get involved in a sale like this where it would be advantageous to them? I see Chad.
Yeah, I mean, that's the reason why I don't go to any kind of auction, because you have to be able to, I think, by the end of the auction, prove that you have the cash available. I know in some cases, some wholesalers do, but in that case, they have a really good relationship with a buyer who's willing to take anything for a good value, and then you can use their proof of funds, right? But unless you like have a good relationship with a buyer and you know they'll take anything that's a good deal, then you really can't do it.
Yeah, it makes sense. I guess if a wholesaler has that kind of money, they're an investor, not a wholesaler.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I mean, yeah, typically wholesalers don't use their own.
Yeah.
I mean, you could eventually, I guess, but
yeah.
Yeah, it would require a large cash reserve in order to be able to do some of these.
Hey, Chad, do you have any input on that? I know you have quite an extensive experience with that side of things.
Oh, you guys hear me?
You're pretty broken. You must be in Jersey.
I'm not in your PA.
Driving.
Oh yeah, give it a shot. We can hear like every other word. All right, he must be a Verizon customer. Why don't you guys keep going?
Yeah, so that was pretty much all that I had really planned. You know, if there's any questions, like I said, I still consider myself to be a newbie at this. You know, I just, you know, the way that I kind of learned how to do this, I did read, you know, 2 books, you know, and then went through and sat through probably about 5 auctions where I did nothing but watch. And then 2 of them, you know, the one guy bought 2 properties, and, you know, you know, when he was done paying his, you know, money up front, I kind of cornered him and said, hey man, you know, what do you do? And he was a flipper. And so he flipped these places, but, you know, he also had a bunch of rental properties. And so, you know, he was, you know, as we're walking out, he was just nice enough to say, you know, kind of, this is how it works. And, you know, if you want to get in this game, you need a lot of cash. That's kind of what, you know, he said his comment was, it's a lot easier if you have the cash. He said, because then you're not limited to, you know, the ones that are 20 grand. He said, maybe the cheapest, but they're probably, you know, the higher price ones are usually where you can make the most. And they're usually in better condition. And he goes, but, you know, he was nice enough. Like I said, most people are pretty decent. They're not gonna, you know, tell you get out of here. But, you know, and so I run into him every once in a while. I haven't been to the ones out in Beaver in a while. I've been focusing on the ones around here just because of, you know, work and everything. It just makes it easier. You know, once I flip that house that I'm working on now and I get the cash back, then I will start to look in Westmoreland County, which is closer to Pittsburgh and particularly in New Ken. You know, what I've heard is, you know, I've been to one of the auctions there, but again, it's hard to tell, you know, what the normal flow is with COVID because, you know, they were almost, you know, before we went into the courtroom, they asked you, which ones are you interested in, which kind of caught me off guard. And I was like, this one, this one, this one. They're like, okay, all 3 of those have been postponed. Okay, well, can I come in? No. You know, so it's like, okay. She's like, because of COVID, we, you know, they want to limit who's in the room. And, you know, you could tell there was definitely experience there. But out here where I live, there's very little competition in these rural counties. And they're like, you know, kind of like what Brian said, the process is, you know, different every county, and it's pretty antiquated. I know that State College in Center County, you can go online and I think bid online. That's the only one I know of. But, you know, again, I don't work there anymore. So I'm trying to kind of push towards Pittsburgh and move closer. Just the rents are better the closer you get to Pittsburgh.
Rick, that's awesome information. Thanks so much for your input on that. Does anybody have any questions for Rick based on the presentation or any of the stuff that he brought up?
Yes, this is Chad. I'm sorry about that. I was trying to talk to you guys from my laptop, and my Audis mic doesn't work that well. Rick, one question for you, and then I add value from the perspective as a wholesaler. For the tax sales or auctions you've gone to, out of the ones you've successfully been able to acquire, how many of those were still properties that had a mortgage on them? And how did you negotiate any type of terms with those banks when they came to when they came to try to get the property back?
No, they won't, because it's the way that Pennsylvania works. It's the sheriff's sale is their way of getting the bank's way of getting their money back. And so the money that I paid to the sheriff's sale isn't going to the sheriff. It's really just being turned into the bank. So what you see at that price of the judgment, that's what the mortgage is. And so the banks hire attorneys to go bid for them. So they will never go below what the mortgage is. And so what happens is if you know, I'd say probably at these auctions, 3/4 of the homes, no one bids but the attorney for the bank. And so essentially what it does is then allow the bank to take it and either REO it, but most of them will put it up on auction.com because they're still hoping to get, you know, something out of, you know, what they, you know, what was owed. And so, yeah, you're essentially paying the bank when you win a sheriff's sale.
Now, this is for the same for tax sales as well?
For tax sales?
Yeah, my question is more so towards tax sales. Like if
No,
you
because
go,
yeah, I think the tax sale is the same thing. The way that I read, the way that the tax sales work is that when the county or the state, I think it's county, when the county files for back taxes, they have to send a message or a notice to the bank saying, hey, this person's behind in their taxes, and, you know, this is going up for auction. You know, typically what will happen is the bank is then going to either pay the taxes or, you know, because once you get it, I think once it makes it to that second level of the tax sale, it wipes away every lien. So the bank's losing their money if they don't bid.
Yeah, let me explain a little bit on that. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yep.
All right. Yeah, I've done a boatload of research on tax sales, between tax liens and tax deeds. Pennsylvania is a tax deed state. And the tax sale process begins with, there's 3 types of sales, as Rick mentioned earlier. One is the upset sale. That's the first one.
Yep.
And during an upset sale on taxes, all the liens against the property do convey to the new buyer if bought at an upset sale. Okay. But if the property doesn't sell at an upset sale, then it goes to a judicial sale. The judicial sale is at a second level that you were trying to remember, Rick. On a judicial sale, all liens are removed from the property. All, I should say, known liens are removed from the property. So there may be some due diligence done on it to make sure that any liens that haven't been filed haven't been placed against the property or been deferred or delayed between the time that you buy it and the time that the sale took place. So, or the time it went up for auction. And then if a property doesn't sell at a judicial sale, then it goes to a repository list. And the repository list is basically all the properties that didn't sell at the upset sale, didn't sell at the judicial sale. It's the bottom of the barrel, so to speak. This is also called over the counter, or OTC, for these types of properties. And those properties, you know, you just go into the tax office and you say, I'm interested in this property, and you cut them a check and you buy the property. Most of those, that from what I've seen in some of my research, have been trailers. trailer homes,
Yeah.
right? And I would encourage you to really consider staying away from trailers. And here's the reason why: not trailer parks, but trailer homes, because there's more often than not, I see 99.99% of the time, there's going to be lot rent owed on that trailer. You don't know how long it's been empty. You don't know what the condition might be. There's difficulty getting access to some trailers. You can do a drive-by, like Rick suggested earlier, and you'll find that the trailer's usually in, it's a very old trailer or is in bad shape, and somebody old lived there that maybe passed away, something like that. But anyway, I mean, you can do what you want in terms of how you want to diversify your portfolio. But upset sale, judicial sale, and repository list is what we have in Pennsylvania. And each county, some counties have their lists online, other counties don't. And I think the real opportunity is in the ones that don't, where you have to go to the county offices to get the list.
That's what I'm doing right now. I'm here in York County in the city of York. I'm headed to the county courthouse now. So thanks for that chiming in, and also thank you, Rick, as well. The reason why I posed that question, because I currently came up on a gold mine. So I have a property that I'm trying to acquire now in New Jersey. It was paid out by a company initially. The taxes were paid by a company called FIG. And I found out doing some research that they're a company that they buy up tax liens around the country, and for the company, and then they hold those assets to hold them, to register the company as a schedule, I think Form D, as an SEC bypass, so pass through, to create a hedge fund. And it's obviously it's big business for this company, but I was able to get the pricing for what they paid. And this property in New Jersey has a current mortgage on it. The bank has not filed any paperwork to buy the house back. So it turned into an over-the-counter type of tax sale where they paid about $5,000 for it, and I'm buying it back from them for $5,500. The appraised value of the property is roughly $250,000 with a mortgage of $150 on it.
Ooh. Well, can I ask a question on that?
Yes, sir.
You say you're in New Jersey, right?
That's correct.
Okay, that's a tax lien state, so that's going to be different than PA, which is a tax deed state.
Correct.
Are you in first position on that lien, or what position would you have on that?
I would have first position on the lien because I am replacing the company FIG for the amount they paid. So there was delinquent tax, about $3,700 to the county. And then there were garbage and sewer fees that were assessed as well. So the tax collector's office were taking payments on the garbage and sewer fees, but FIG paid the original amount of $36.59 and some change. So I'm paying that amount plus the remaining sewer amount in the May bill.
So there's how much did you say the mortgage was?
The remaining mortgage is $153,297.
Yeah.
It gets deeper. It was an FHA mortgage. It was for $209 originally. Remaining amount is $153,297 on the mortgage. And the bank that originated the loan, they recently had to pay out like $200 million for some defrauding they did of mortgage clients. So it appears that mortgage company has gone under. So I might have almost like a free and clear home.
Yeah.
Wow, I want some of that action.
Yeah, you gotta be careful though with because I heard something similar to that where it was trouble getting title because of that. But if you're in the first position, then it may not be an issue. It's I think clearing title when you went to sell it was the problem they had because that mortgage company no longer existed. And so, but I'm
right.
Sure and an attorney, then
you got to make sure that that if that company went under and there's still a lien against the deed filed at the courthouse,
Right.
how are you going to get that removed? Would be a question.
That was the problem. So they couldn't sell it.
Couldn't sell it.
If you're making it a rental, then Karis.
That's the idea.
No,
to make it a rental.
That's
And I'm
That's
sorry.
a really good piece of information you just brought up, Rick. Chad, if you're going to do anything like that and the mortgage company sold, went defunct, went bankrupt, they're dealing with, Freddie and those guys, I'm 100% guaranteeing there's nothing that's free and clear from that. I just helped a good friend and client sell her house, and they found a bunch of old outstanding mortgages from a company that closed 15 years ago. The loan was bought, sold to another collection company, bought by them, sold, and the companies were long gone where they had to go back to paper records to find this stuff. They still want their piece of it. So in whatever way, I'm not sure how it works in Jersey and other places, but at least in this area with properties in Pennsylvania, I'm sure even if that mortgage company goes tits up, somebody's going to be knocking on your door eventually.
And if they do, that's fine, but they're gonna pay their way out, and I'll probably make more than my $5,000 investment. So for me, it's a win-win. If I don't I'm not in it, and that's one thing about me. I'm not emotionally attached to any deal. It's my initial investment and what I can get on my ROI. So if I get 15 grand more on the back end, and I haven't pumped much into the property, that's fine by me.
Yeah, you're not making payments either.
Right, exactly. So if all I'm doing is paying garbage and sewer, and then the tax, which is nominal in that area, is not that much, I don't care. If my expenditures each year are less than $2,000, and I hold it for 2 or 3 years, but I can capitalize another 20 off my 5, then I make my money. I don't give a damn.
Yeah, so I'm also that's one of the things that I've been looking into is tax liens and buying those, but I know that Pennsylvania is not, and so I have to get your information because I grew up in New York, so I still have family out there, and I've got money sitting in a solo 401k that I wanted to put some of it and buy some liens, but I just wasn't sure on the process and didn't have time. So yeah, I'd be interested in if you have information about where to buy those just straight up liens in New Jersey.
This one fell on my lap, so I do a lot of I'm pretty sure everyone on this call, a lot of networking, talking to family and friends, so on and so forth, cold calling and some SMS or direct marketing and mail. I was talking to a family friend and said, yeah, my mother's ex-husband let his house go. I'm like, what happened? So I started digging some more, and I had a buddy that worked at the tax assessor's office in the city of Plainfield. He's like, yeah, I can just send you an email of the company in the form they pretty much paid off on. I contacted them. They verified it in the state of New Jersey. If someone else pays, especially a corporation, if they pay the taxes on it, you can't pay them directly to recoup that tax certificate. You have to pay the county or the jurisdiction. So I called them, verified the amount, sent over a payment. I initially first contacted the owner because contractually he's still someone that owns the property, so his name's on the deed. So we went into a contract for a purchase to buy the property for $1. He said, I don't want nothing but the property. You can have it.
Jeez.
All right, cool. So title company did the title research. They saw that there was, the bank in the second position because the county went in on the first position. But when the person, the corporation that paid the taxes, when they had everything done, they replaced the county in first position. They said, all right, well, you're paying it off. Once payments received and we get confirmation back from the county that it's been paid off, we'll go ahead and close on this deal, and you're going to first position. So I'm going to closing next week. House for $1, paid $5,500 for back taxes and sewage fees, and I'll just sit and play sitting duck until a bank comes and says, hey, I want the property back. Okay, well, here's my fee. Here's my price.
Nice.
And if nobody comes, I'll wait it out. I'll use the equity that's in it, pull a little bit out, or get an asset-based lender from a hard lender, something nominal, fix it up, minor, put a tenant in there until a bank comes knocking. I mean, until then, Jersey's a little different animal than Pennsylvania, and I love Pennsylvania a whole lot. That's why I'm always out here. But there are some ways where in New Jersey you can really make a nice way for yourself in the tax certificate side, tax lien side, than here in Pennsylvania on the tax deed side.
Yeah. So you're going to York now? You're going to?
I am literally right here in front of York County Superior Court. I'm here right now. I'm about to go inside and get a list.
Yeah, definitely. It's, again, it's a pretty simple process. They'll tell you, like I said, the judgment in there is listed right there, what the bank is looking to get out of it. And once you kind of figure out the comps and the ones that you're interested in there, like I said, I've found it pretty much on every single sheriff sale that I've gone to. There's at least 3 to 4 that are very profitable deals. And, again, I've yet to run into a situation where 2 investors are bidding against each other. It's usually the bank and the investor. Again, if you go to like a more populated county, I'm sure it's probably a little bit different, but from where I am in the rural side of it, it's, like I said, I've been to about 20, and I've not once have I seen 2 investors going against each other, other than, like I said, the people that live next door, which I wouldn't consider them investors. They just wanted the house next door. And I've seen so many people go and bid, 1,000, 2,000, and then they stop. And it's like, they're bidding 2,000 on a house that owes, 120,000 in a mortgage. It's like, and I just sit there and, shake my head like, yeah, there's no way you're getting this house, because I know it's my attorney that's bidding against them. Yeah.
Hey, Chad, that was a lot of really good information. I'd like to connect you with the guys in this group a little bit more. I know we just met a short while ago too, but this group we have here might be kind of diverse from a location standpoint, but everybody in the group, Chad, he's bouncing all over the country, look at some pretty substantial deals. We were just talking about one in Buffalo is 15 or 17 million, 80 units, something like that.
Yes, yeah.
Chad has his fingers on, so he's a guy to know. Connect. Everybody's email is in the invite list, so if you can just record each other's emails, phone numbers, whatever, and reach out. There's a lot of potential with the group we have here. I know, Chad, after the introductions, we're missing about 9 people from the call now, but
okay.
I appreciate your input, especially, you're out on the road as we speak doing this. We're all sitting in our living rooms or at work doing stuff. You're living it as we speak. So thanks again for your
Listen, I'll keep the phone on if the officers don't bother me too much. As a matter of fact, I'm gonna show you how to move my truck. I have an oversized truck that I drive every day for work. It's like an F550. It's like 26,000 pounds. So I had to move from where I'm at, but I'm right here in front of the courthouse. No, look. What you got? Can you guys see it?
Nice.
I'm here. I'm all about action, man. If I'm not working, I'm working. So
Yeah.
for me, this is daily. If I can not do my full-time job and do this full-time, I will. But until that transition makes financial sense for me, then yeah, I would definitely do this full-time.
You're being way too modest, man. You're a retired veteran. You're a retired Philadelphia police officer. You got your shit together. So don't talk like that. These guys.
I'm humble, man. I'm humble. I'm humble. Like I said, I like to learn from people that I know nothing about. So to hear Rick dive this deep into this, I'm over here. I'm glad this is recorded because I want a copy of this. I'm going to go back and then really digest it and take notes. Yep. But for me, it's like, this is a wealth of information that I did not know everything about. And like I said, every single day, if you're in this business to learn, you will always find value in something from someone. And you take it and you 10x it once you get the grasp of it. So I've always done my research about tax deeds and tax liens. But it's one thing to take that information and apply it. Like, that deal fell on my lap. So now it's like, okay, I'm now going to really go after this particular part of real estate investing because it makes a lot of sense, especially if you're able to apply it in real time. Yeah. Just so happened, I was in Arlington, Virginia this morning. I shut down operations due to inclement weather. I got rained on pretty bad. And I'm here in York to get these tax lists. So great conversation, great opportunity to show in real time how you can do it and get this information. I'm glad to be a part of it.
Thanks, dude. Really
Yeah.
appreciate
Yeah. And you know, one of the things that I've also, you know, looked at doing is, you know, getting these lists from multiple counties and putting something together where, you know, again, there's, you know, trying to be in York right now, you know, it's difficult with a regular job. You know, I'm jealous of him going in there because, like I said, I was always intimidated. You know, oh, shoot, I'm going to the courthouse and there's the police at the, you know, scanning. I'm like, I hope I left everything in the car. Like, didn't bring my gun with me. Like, but after a while, you get in there. It's like I said, you get to know the people in the office. Like, I've got a funny story real quick. This, the one in Cambria County, and I don't know if it was on the list, but I go in there into the office, and you know, I'm looking at these places at the Prothon ordering it, and I'm bringing up some houses, and they're going through and pulling all the files on them. And the one name comes up, and I'm looking at it, and I'm like, I don't know how to say this name. It's Pinos. And so I'm like, Pinos, you know, one lady said penis, you know. And so now every time I go into that office, they're like, hey, are you doing any research on penises today?
Oh.
Just like, you know, so it's but they're a wealth of information. They will tell you, you know, oh, you know, I think this one is, you know, this is the one that, you know, they had to go to, you know, 2 or 3 times because of, you know, drugs or something, you know. And it's like, oh, they were, you know, they had the meth there. And I was like, ooh, you know, like that looked good, but it's a meth house. Like, I don't want
No
anyone.
phones allowed.
Yeah.
No phones allowed. It's like, I'll drop my phone off. I'll be back with the list in like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
it, man. Go kill it.
But it's funny, like, you know, they're all, like I said, every place, every courthouse I've been to, every clerk's office, the sheriff's office, they've just been super helpful, especially if you just tell them, hey, I'm new at this, I'm trying, you know, I don't quite understand this, you know, what's this mean? And they're, you know, they'll all, you know, you get to pay a little bit, you know, $4 or $5, they'll copy everything for you. You know, and so it was a good learning experience for me going through and learning how to do title searches. But yeah, it's, you know, it's almost like, you know, kind of mini investigations, I guess. Like, so it's kind of fun. Like I said, I'm jealous of him going in there. I'm looking forward to the next one that they have here. But yeah, so I was thinking, you know, generating that list, and you know, if I can do this for other, you know, other counties and kind of go through, even if I'm not interested in, you know, some way of sharing those, hey, here's 4 or 5 that, you know, if I had the cash, I would buy. You know, if anybody else would be interested in something like that.
Hey, Rick,
Yeah.
I would suggest connecting with Richard Clark also here. You guys back and forth via email. He and I had like an interesting plan of doing a circuit throughout all the counties and visiting, introducing, just like you said, getting on a reputation with everyone inside the office so that when you walk in, they know that you're there and mean business. I think you guys should definitely connect and try and find a way to work together, because he's out your way and he has a lot of experience out this way. And for everybody else on the call, I mean, it would be a pretty good spot to be in.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, even if somebody else sees something on the list that you're interested in, or you think the numbers work, like I said, I, you know, have someone else go and bid for you. I know there's other people that do it too. They pay somebody to bid for them. You know, so I know that there's people out there. I've also heard some pretty shady things that happen there where, you know, people will, you know, bid against, you know, other investors on purpose to try to make them run out of money before it gets to the house that they want. But I said, I haven't run into anything like that yet. And I, you know, I've heard the people, you know, getting arrested as well for colluding. So, you know, but again, like I said, I've been to about 20 of them, and, you know, bought 2 off of them. And so, you know, again, I still consider myself a newbie at this, but, you know, I'm always glad to share anything that I've learned. You know, and again, if somebody finds something that's not accurate that I said, by all means, let me know. But yeah, it's definitely, you know, a rush when you do get the place. And like I said, I paid 20 grand for a house that with a little bit of work is, you know, worth 80. So there's definitely deals out there.
That's awesome, Rick.
Um,
You know, in this
if-
part of the state, at least Lehigh, I would venture to guess that Allegheny and the city of Pittsburgh are very similar because of the population density. But this area in the Lehigh Valley, at least, is pretty saturated with those things, and specifically investors and other people buying. So it's not as simple process. But the Lehigh Valley is its own little economy. Outside of the valley, though, there's counties that really still have a paper system. You go north of Carbon County, in between like Wilkes-Barre and the Lehigh counties, or even down south as you get closer to Montgomery and Philly, deals are still there. But you really, to find things like this, you're going to have to go where there's not a list of people also trying to get them. You know, Chad's walking in the courthouse right now with his phone recording. I see his sun visor up. He's in a county where there's investors, but it's not the same as if you were to walk into the city of Philly and try and get that same list. You know, finding the deals, you know, in the end.
I stay away from Allegheny County, like there's because I know there's so many, but there's deals there, and you know I've yet to go to one of their auctions, and for me it's basically just because of the political situation in Allegheny with the one that I did get at the from auction.com and struggling to get them out. So, but and I said the same thing. There's probably a lot more competition there, and so your cash isn't going to go as far. And but you're exactly right. Like I've looked. My brother drives for Waste Management up near, going towards the New York border. I can't remember what county it is. It's the one right over from Scranton, in between Port Jervis. And he's driven, so he drives that garbage truck, he's constantly sending me, hey, look at this one, and then I'll go and find out. It's like, man, that's on the sheriff's sale list, like, and it's like, wire my brother some money to go bid. But then again, like, I'd need somebody out there that, would be able to sort of manage it, unless it's one that could be easily turned over to another investor. But yeah. So I literally, it seems like the rural counties that, like Blair County and Cambria here, where there's not a lot of competition, probably you'll have a little bit of, better luck. But then again, you never know too. There's certain areas where, maybe they're not interested in going into that area, but we'll see. I know Westmoreland was a little bit more competition, and that's like right outside of Pittsburgh. And so, but I've been to the one in Butler County, and they're the same thing. It was, one or two people bidding and never competition other than the bank. As long as you go $1 over what they bid, then they're happy. They got their, their money back for whatever the mortgage was, because you're essentially paying off the mortgage for them.
Hey, Chad, if you're talking, it's hard to hear you. I don't know if your mic's muted or something.
I think Chad's got out making money.
He's in the stairwell.
Yeah. Hey, I'm going to have to drop. I actually have 3 houses to look at this afternoon, and starting at 2:00. So I'm going to have to, but nice meeting you, Rick. You have, everyone has my coordinates, so feel free to email me, or if you have any ideas or thoughts, questions, any opportunities you'd like to get a second look at, be more than happy to do that for you. But nice meeting you, Rick. That was great presentation. Thank you very much.
Oh, my pleasure. Yeah. Probably need to get back to work too.
Yeah. Thank you, Rick.
Horrible job. So yeah, no, I'm glad I had this opportunity, and thanks for letting me present.
And thanks for coming on, Rick. I appreciate you connecting us, Brian. It was nice to have some outside sources. And if you guys think of any other person that might have value or be able to bring value to the forum here, I'm confident that maybe in the future, some of us will work together, do deals together. We could raise a shit ton of money with the right grasp, and you never know what's out there. So I hope things like this continue. As long as you guys keep getting value from the meetups, we'll keep doing them. And again, just get back and let us know what you need.
Yep.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah.